the absence of my father has really just further ingrained in me just how unique I am and just how much I just need to be me. Because my dad was always just himself. You know, he never told me this, but I think the biggest thing I learned from him was you rather be yourself and stand out from the crowd instead of blending in and never knowing how unique you truly are.
Welcome to the Unpacking Creative Lives podcast. I'm your host, Barney Preet, and this week we chat with Dom Diaz. Dom is a musician based in Sydney. He sings, beatboxes, plays the piano, trumpet, and more. In this week's episode, we talk about Dom's background and training, the musician's life, friendships, and confidence. He released the video of his new single, Whiskey Girl, which you can now check out on New Jupiter's YouTube channel. Just a warning that there will be adult language used in this episode, so if that's not your thing, feel free to skip it. Follow at I am Barney Preet for weekly episode updates, or subscribe to my YouTube channel to watch full video episodes. My first question that I asked Dom was how his Conservatorium of Music high school experience was like.
It was quite an enchanting high school. It was like going to Hogwarts.
Stop.
We didn't feel like it back then, but later in life, me and my closest mate, Nick, he went to high school with me, and we were like joined at the hip in high school. We look back and we go, God damn, we went to like magic school. So a day in the life, like we had all the normal subjects at the con, except for like every Friday for 2 hours from 8 till 10, you had choir, 2 hours of choir. Everyone in the school was in the choir, unless you were either a senior, then you were in the orchestra who accompanied the choir, or you were a singer, or you just wanted to be in the orchestra and you were good enough. So on top of that, we had we had music classes, which were just like not the music classes that most primary school, high schools have. They were pretty intensive. Everything from like melodic dictation to learning about how to talk about music, from its, describing its textures, from music theory to just score reading, listening to famous sonatas and classical pieces and concertos and what have you, and like following the score. But like a day in the life of a con student, it's like there's 200 people in the whole school. That's the whole school. So there was 25, 30 kids in my year. So it's a very small school. Everyone knew each other in school. You knew everyone in the school.
So was everyone tight knit?
Yes and no. Like everyone knew each other. So yes, in a way, but groups were smaller than, I'd see kids on from Canterbury girls and Canterbury boys and Asheville, because I lived in the West, and they were like huge schools, and these groups were like flocking in the numbers, and I thought to myself, I knew back then, I was like, this is a normal school, when they were rowdy and they were like not nerdy and they were like sports schools or whatever, and so we were quite tight knit, but our groups were very small. You had groups of 5, groups of 6, groups of 7. But in the end of the day, we were all there for the same reason of music. And it was generally there was bullying, and there was, crappy teachers. There was all the things that
the
a normal
standard of a high school experience.
Exactly. There was just a lot of focus on music composition. We all got taught how to sing. We all got taught how to use our diaphragm and sing properly, because everyone's a musician there, or musician training. So everyone knows how to hold note. We also had practice rooms. So we share, the con shares with the uni. So we had 150 soundproof practice rooms.
How has that helped you today in your music?
It just gave me a broader view of what not just music is, but I feel like in a spiritual sense of the energetic qualities of music, it was like learning magic, it wasn't just you learned some scales and you learned how to play songs. It was like music. It was very much the soul of music. As much as it was very academic and classical based, because it was a classical music school. Mind you, I was horrible at classical music. Like later in, I never practiced. I went there for trumpet, but I never practiced trumpet, and I was like the worst trumpet player in the whole school. You know, I was bad at school. I was really bad at school. You know how they say kids are really bad at school? Well, I went to a music school, and I was really bad at music, academically. But everyone knew that I could improvise and do these things, and I could play piano and I could play guitar and I could had a nice voice, but I was really crappy at the one instrument that I went there for.
So how is it being able to learn all those instruments at once? Like that's a lot. So how did you manage to learn all of them?
A mixture of like me being so distractible and getting bored of one instrument, going, okay, what's next? Screw this. I'm going to go to like, so I was very distractible and I was very like, that's enough. That's enough. And obviously I just had an interest in playing all these things, playing all these different instruments. I started like wagging class with my best mate. And what we did to wag class wasn't go and do things that like smoke pot in the garden, in the playground or whatever. We used to go jam, but we'd be jamming little jazzy tunes. You know, it wasn't what we were learning. We were like we were playing simpler music.
The underground sound
Yeah,
of the
straight
school.
up. We were playing very simplified music, simple music compared to the Shostakovich and the Brahms and the Beethoven and the Bach, the Baroque music we were listening to, but like we were improvising everything. Whereas every single thing that we ever studied in class was all notated. And me and my mate Nick, I would play the piano and he'd play sax and I'd sing funny songs about hot chicks at the school and things like that. It was so funny. But yeah, it was so we were playing jazz and stuff like that. And then like we created the jazz program. Well, there was already a jazz program there when I was in like year 7 with some seniors, and then they were in year 12, and then they graduated and there was no jazz program. And then 2-3 years later, me and my mate Nick, we teamed up with a jazz pianist who was at the con. And we kind of started up a jazz program there. We kind of got Judy Bailey involved, who is a world-class Australian jazz pianist. And we had jazz every Wednesday night at the con.
So you also went to the Australian Institute of Music, but you didn't graduate. What happened there?
I just like to smoke weed and make beats instead of playing trumpet. Once again, I just like I just wagged class and went to the pub and drank a lot of beer and got stoned. And like, mind you, I learned a lot at AIM. Like,
did you?
Yeah, shitloads. But the same thing. Like the trumpet for me was always like, I love playing the trumpet. I always loved playing the trumpet, but the true love for the trumpet only started when I flunked out of uni and I joined a band called Margin Boo. And it was like this reggae ska funk band. I didn't even sing. I just played trumpet and piano. And then I started really loving it, you know. But when I was in Australian Institute of Music, it was great. Like I played all the keys and I jammed a lot. And like I said, I skipped class and I didn't hand assignments in. And I just went, screw this. I'm not doing this. I don't need a degree thing. And my parents were on my back about it. And my best mate graduated because he was just as ADD as me, if not more, but he's very focused and he just did it. Whereas I met other people who are more into getting drunk and wagging class and smoking weed and making beats and rapping and singing. And then I started rapping and then it was all over. It was all over.
What? Tell me about that. What moment was that for you?
I met my mate Keegan, who's still my mate to this day. And we formed a duo. We just like loved each other's presence and each other's musical vibes. We wanted to create this band, TIA, This Is Animal. We're just like, let's make like crazy contemporary music infused with tribal sounds and like, you know, make people just like, you know, release their inner animal and just go nuts. But like, you know, he liked the way I rapped and I didn't really rap in front of a lot of people. But I'd written a lot of raps.
Were you beatboxing then?
Yeah. Beatboxing always. I started rapping a lot. And then me and my 2 best mates, we kind of lived together and we smoked a lot of weed. And jammed a lot.
I feel like
and
the
I
title of
learned.
this video is going to be weed in there because I think you said it
Well,
at least
it's
10
funny.
times.
I'm
Do you
sorry. I'm
recommend
sorry. It was
it? No, don't apologize. It's hilarious. I think there's a huge romantic notion about taking different substances and making music or making art. And I'm actually curious, like, what is that's like the romantic rock star notion. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I'm definitely for taking drugs. I like taking drugs, but obviously they're a tool, especially psychedelics and things like psychoactive plant medicine, which is what I call it, like marijuana. Um, it's all tools. You can party on it, great, but in the end of the day, if you're not doing something that really excites your soul when you're doing it, if you're not doing anything like for a creative, like been doing for a creative, you're a creative, you're not doing something creative with it. Um, like you're not really like, especially when you're young and your brain's still developing, or it has finished developing and it's developing into the person that you're going to be for the rest of your life. If you're doing drugs and you're a musician, and you're not playing music, then it's not really doing much. But
So you use it as a tool with intention.
well, yeah, I didn't know that I was doing it back then. Back then, I just like to smoke weed. But me and my mate Nick, this guy I went to the con with, we'd get stoned every single day, every single night. Sorry, and he had his parents' giant sandstone mansion in Roseville that they kind of had to leave because his father was in some financial trouble and blah, blah, blah. And they were going to repossess the house. Nick's like, no, my grandfather built this house. I'm not leaving. And we stayed there until the bank came and repossessed it. They didn't come and repossess it for 6 months. And we lived in this mansion. Me and my mate Nick, we smoked weed and we jammed for like 3, 4, 5 hours every day for like 2, 3 years in this giant marble music room that he had. And the acoustics were just massive, and it was just 100-year-old house, and we were just smoking and talking, and like we were 21 years old, so we're learning about ourselves, learning about the world, talking smack as well, like complete smack, but also like listening to music and analyzing music and just obviously getting into a lot of stoner holes. But
what's that like? What is stoner holes?
Tangents on tangents on tangents, and you just talk about shit that doesn't really matter, but it's still you finding yourself. But then it all kind of made sense when we jammed.
Right.
No matter how much we were like wasting time, me and Nick always got to the point where we're like, all right, let's jam.
So you would just empty out your words, get all the quota of the words out for the day, and then just there was no words left, and then it was just music.
Pretty much. So going back to your question of like, what's my take on drugs and stuff? Yeah, it's all a tool, and you got to just use it responsibly, and it's like you can, like, it's just like Spider-Man, with great power comes great responsibility. There's great power in the knowledge that you can download with things like LSD and mushrooms and weed, all of these things I love, except for weed. I don't really smoke weed anymore. Done enough of that. But yeah, it's a responsibility. It's a lot of power. It's a lot of knowledge and power. But if you're just going to misuse it, you're just going to, it's just all for naught. And then the energy's not going anywhere. And then and then you're not going anywhere.
Okay.
Taking drugs for nothing.
For nothing.
Nothing. You take a drug, it might as well be for something. But our intention was to play music, but our intention wasn't to use this substance to open our minds and blah, blah, blah. And it was just like, let's smoke weed and play music,
Working as a teacher, part-time gigging, right? And then you left that to become a full-time musician. Now, before we actually get to the warehouse, I want to talk about that decision and how that landed with you and your family.
Yeah, cool. Good question. Around that time that I was teaching a lot. So this is after all the stuff that I was doing with like my friend and all that.
The Marble Mansion.
The Marble Mansion. This is after that. Yeah. Wasn't quite a stoner at this point, but I still smoke weed. I was teaching at I was living with my friend in Roseville, the same mate, Nick. And I was and I was in this band, Margin Boo, my reggae funk band. And yeah, I'm starting to get some like cover gigs to pay the bills here and there, but I was doing a lot of the party, the hanging out stopped being at home and so much so introverted. And it was more like I was doing shows with an original band, and sometimes an original gig of my own, but not really. Didn't have that confidence in myself quite yet. I just found myself teaching at Bondi Beach Public School and teaching at Eleanor Heights Public School, teaching trumpet, teaching theory, and the occasional trombone. I don't play trombone, but I play brass, and I just kept myself one lesson ahead of the kids, and it worked out. I could only take them so far, and I told them, look, now it's time for a better teacher.
Yeah.
Nice. And they didn't have a problem. They were like, thank you for your honesty. And so it got to the point where I was just, I started to really, I started to postpone lessons. I started to every now and then be late to lessons because like I had a gig or I was hungover, and I started really realizing like, okay, I really just want to play gigs. I really just want to play gigs. And if that leads to me drinking too much beer because I've had so much fun at this gig, I'm being a bad teacher. These kids deserve better than that. And for me to be just kind of just flaking all the time, it's actually doing them a disservice by being their teacher at this point, because I've already chosen what I want to do in this time of my life. I quit teaching, and then I went to I moved in. I went to my first festival, actually. Changed my life.
Yeah, let's talk about that. What was it? Can you just take us back to that day?
My best mate, one of my other best mates and drummer and fantastic producer, David Goldberg. His producer name is Miggy. If you want to check him out, he's amazing. Came back from a 6-month cruise. We're good friends in uni before he went for the cruise. Not uni, like just after, like the years after uni. When he went to the cruise and he came back, he was kind of just like different. And like I was like, hey man, and he invited me over to his mate's house and we hung out, and it was just this different connection. He's like, hey man, look, I need money. I just blew all my money going overseas. Do you want to do some gigs with me? I was like, yep, let's do some gigs. I'm a singer now. Let's do it. So we started doing these gigs. And then after a gig one night, he just went, hey Dom, do you want to just come to Subsonic Music Festival with me? All right, cool, you're coming, done. David has this thing. He's like, do you want to do this? And he knew that I'd never been to a festival before, let alone a kind of bush duffy festival, like. So I was like, okay, I don't even know what this is. Yeah, let's do it. And I went, and it was amazing. I didn't realize there were so many people like me, I didn't know. It was amazing. Like a festival is kind of like a playground for adults, a music festival, it was amazing. I took drugs for the first time, and I danced my ass off, and everything was different after then. Everything was different. And I just came back, and at that point, I think I was still living with my friend and Nick, and it just wasn't working. Just needed something better. And then I went to, and then I moved into this warehouse. I actually met a guy called Dean Ginsberg, who's my current housemate, at the end of this festival. And I just chimed into a conversation. He was just at the campsite with my mate David, and they were just talking about this warehouse. And I just heard Dean say, yeah, maybe we'll figure something out. And David's like, oh, this is Dom's, the guy I was talking about. He'd love to live there too. I was like, yeah, cool. Then next minute, I'm there's this amazing warehouse, and my friend Dean, Dean Ginsberg, he just curated all this stuff. Like he was a bit of a hoarder, but a creative hoarder. Like he did a lot of festivals, and he run a lot of events. So he's got a lot of stuff. He had like organs and silks, and he's an artist and a sculptor as well. So he's got a lot of just really cool shit everywhere. Nice couches, weird chairs, and I can't even, like, amazing shit, and then moved into the warehouse, and it was amazing space. Built some great community, went to some cool festivals, met a lot of cool people, brought them back to the warehouse.
What does friendship mean to you?
Everything. It's as important as like family. It's as important as music. Almost makes it all worth it in many ways. It's funny that you say that. Friendship is the most important thing. Before I was living in the house I'm living in right now, I was living in Dulwich Hill with two of my best mates. They're two brothers, and I was going through a breakup. and they were going through a breakup as well. We're all going through this
What
breakup.
a great combination, though.
Yeah, 3 men just feeling it. And I don't know, like I just started waking up every morning like so just like, oh my God, what's going on? And like I knew the boys were there. And like I love coffee. Coffee in the morning with friends is like, oh, I love it. Like honestly. So I started just opening my door down the hall. There's my mate right across the hall from me, and my other mate down the hall, his brother down the other hall. And I used to just yell, just friendship now. I need it. And then the next day I'd do it again. Friendship, coffee now. Now I need it. And then David started saying it. He just knocked on my door. Friendship. I'm like, friendship. And we just started saying friendship all the time. Just friendship became the thing. It just became the thing, the most important thing. And we'd go and have coffee and we'd talk about our lives and we'd vent and we'd express and we'd eat food and drink coffee.
You've performed at a lot of places, right?
Mm-hmm.
And since deciding to become a musician, taking the leap, going full time, going through COVID, what is the truth about a musician's hustle?
The truth.
Yeah, like what's the grind like?
The grind is like you got to stay on your toes if you want to make a living. You're an entrepreneur, essentially. You got to you're your own boss. Got to find the work. You got to put the work in. You can't just rock up to work and get paid. Do a job and get paid. It's it takes a lot of courage. It takes a lot of knowing of oneself. It's just like, this is what I do. This is what I'm going to do, and I'm good enough to do this.
What do you recommend for musicians who are just starting to sing live, knowing what you know with live music and live performances?
Confidence is like 90% of it. And then the 10% is technique and being good at your craft. Just make sure you do the work inside yourself. You know what I mean? Because if you're scared or insecure about anything going on stage, especially, like just make sure you're strong in yourself and do whatever's necessary to know yourself and be strong in yourself, because that's the core of everything. It starts there, and then everything's a ramification of that.
If somebody is insecure on stage or really nervous on stage, you've performed with a lot of musicians. Does that translate to the audience?
Yeah, 100%. It's something like I'd be able to say, yeah, I can see this person's not very confident. I've seen people freeze up, like they want to get on stage with me, and then they get on stage and they're just like this. And then I've seen people that are so confident and so sure of themselves, and they're horrible, or they're just like really mediocre, but the crowd's loving it. The worst is not getting to the core of why you feel inadequate on a stage, and getting yourself in a loop of every single time you do it, because you're not approaching it properly, because you're not getting the weed and ripping it out from the center. It's a cycle. You're just going to keep following that same negative pattern of like, okay, even though you think this time I'm going to do it, and like I just got to do it more, yes, do it as much as you can. That obviously makes you a better performer. That actually makes you more confident. But yeah, sometimes if you keep doing it in the wrong way and you're not actually getting to the core of it, then it can be hard. Like I know a lot of people that have been like that. Partners of mine that have performed a lot, but they're still insecure because they're still whether it's they're comparing themselves to other people actively or passively, subconsciously.
How did you handle that comparison?
Oh, I still compare myself.
Really?
Yeah, heaps. I used to have this huge thing with my voice, a big thing. Like there's a few things comparisons I had with my voice were like I always thought my voice was too high pitchy and nasally and annoying. And I always thought that like I had this idea in my head that my voice didn't sound black enough. You know what I'm saying? Like I just heard all these singers that I'd listen to, and like Usher and like Brian McKnight. And yeah, it was this idea that I don't sound black. I sound weird. And like, yeah, up until like a few years ago, I realized like that's the magic. I don't sound like anyone else. And I haven't fully come to accept that yet, fully, but never in my life have I ever felt more comfortable with how I sound. And it's taken me 30 years, but that's fine.
I want to talk about something that you wrote in a Instagram post. I found like this post resonated with me the most. You said, I'm always striving for an unrealistic goal of perfection, but it's time to let that shit go. It's the imperfections in the groove that allow us to feel it.
Mm.
Can you tell me more about that?
Well, like that last part, it's the I do kind of, I don't remember where and when I was, but I do remember that. It's the imperfections in the groove that make us feel it. I was thinking about the grooves in a record and how the needle sits in. And I've had this conversation with a lot of people. I don't know if this is where grooves comes from. The groove comes from the imperfections. They're all scratched and in different ways. They're not just straight lines like we can like they look like. They're probably like intricate little patterns that scratch and resonate to the sound of the thing. And it's only because of these imperfections that we hear the music. So, and also there's so many double meanings of that. It's the imperfections in the groove that make us feel it. If things are too perfect, you can tell, you know. If something is, it's like anything. You walk down the street, unless it's like a really beautiful street. But you know, when you walk down a street in the city or something, like you go to the middle of the CBD, like Wynyard. It's so corporate. It's so right angled. It looks like the Matrix. They actually filmed the Matrix in Wynyard, down the road from my high school. And it's a bit just like yeah, some people might like it, but I know like a lot of people, most people I come in contact with, they're like, yeah, like I'd rather be in a park or a beach or a pub or a dope bar or something. And it's because everything's too perfect, man. Everything's like there's lanes and streets and there's like buildings that are just like big blocks, you know? And then you go to nature, you go for a bushwalk and you feel happy. You feel so happy. And like, you know, that obviously, you know, there's all this scientific research that states that, you know, like nature just invigorates your soul, creates so much serotonin. With going back to my Instagram post of, you know, it's the imperfections in the groove that make us feel it. You feel so much more in nature than you do when you're in like the CBD. And look how imperfectly perfect nature is. Like nothing's a perfect circle, nothing's a perfect square. And if it looks like a perfect square, it's probably not perfect, you know. Everything's a curve into a spiral into like a beautiful something, fractals everywhere.
What has performing live taught you?
It's taught me that people just really, really want to smile. People really yearn to love the moment. People really, really just want to have a good time. Everyone just wants to dance and have a good time. And it's really easy to make a lot of people have a good time at once because everyone's feeding off everyone's energy at all times. We're all in this together, as they say. And I think, you know, often at times I feel like a conductor when I'm playing with a band, especially. I'm conducting the band. I'm telling them what to play. Sometimes they're telling me what to play. I'm singing things to the audience. I'm getting them to sing back to me. I'm talking to people in the audience. Sometimes I'm talking to douchebags in the audience to stop doing something, you know. Sometimes like I'm talking to the bar, you know, like it's whether it's at a bar or a pub or a festival, a huge stage, a small stage. I'm commanding some sort of energetic field around me. And yeah, I think playing live has really showed me, it's made me realize that there's something so much bigger in this life than what we see
That's really cool.
and what we think, like what we like, I don't know, like what we think we understand about, I don't know, I want to say life, but that sounds a bit lame, but you know what I'm saying? It's what we feel, you know.
Do you make your performance an escapism for people to just
Yeah.
let go and for that moment? Is that an intention or?
No, not really. Uh Not really. I just like to go nuts on stage, and I want people to go nuts because I'm going nuts. Like
Yeah.
when I play with a band, and especially when I'm jamming, and even if I'm playing a cover, I'll always take that cover to another place, you know, no matter what kind of style. I like a journey, you know. A big thing that I do a lot is I medley. I'll play a 40-minute set and I'll play 3 songs, but in each of those songs there'll be jamming solos. Maybe I'll play 3 cover songs in the one medley, but in between there'll be like my own rap verses, or like I'll just sing bullshit, or I'll just do it like I don't know, I'll just make something up, and it just doesn't stop. I forgot what the question was.
That's okay. It doesn't matter. That was really cool. I feel like what is popping now is a lot of like live loops from musicians. How did you get comfortable with one? Because you're really performing on your own.
Yeah, mostly, especially now during COVID times, a lot of solo gigs. I got a loop pedal. When I heard of a loop pedal, I was in the warehouse. My mate got one, and at the time when my mate got one, I was like, well, I need one. No way, y'all's gonna have one, and I'm not gonna have one. So I got one, and then I just like loved it, and I just brought it to all my gigs. And it started out as a thing that will be just there. And I was playing with my duo partner at the time. It's obviously pre-COVID. And it was just there in case I wanted to play a trumpet solo. So I would record my guitar and then play trumpet solo. Now it's like I've got full kind of production. It's full kind of production of a track. Like I've got the bass, the rhythm. I beatbox the beat. Sometimes I sing harmonies. I play the trumpet. I play a tambourine. It's still quite raw though. You know what I mean? You look at people like Tash Sultana and other artists that even enter the realms of using Ableton as a loop station and things like that. That is some crazy looping, you know. And I forgot to mention I auditioned for Tash Sultana's band when she asked people to be in a band. I didn't get in because I didn't learn her songs properly. Because I don't know, my brain. But it's very raw what I do still. I like using, I don't want to get I have a drum pad, but I can make drums with my mouth, and I like that. And I have but yeah, loops. So I make beats as well. You know, I'm a producer. So I like making, I can understand how music works from like the ground up, from the beat up, and sometimes from the chords down, whatever. But usually for me, it does start with the rhythm, starts with the drive, starts with the heartbeat. So that's what I'll do. I can't actually loop a perfect loop unless I beatbox first.
Oh, okay.
Literally. And it's funny to say that because my first thing I did musically, aside from maybe singing, was beatboxing. Because I used to, like, when I was playing with toys as a kid, I used to be like I'm making explosion noise as young boys do. That's like, you can call that beatboxing if you think about it.
I think that's so cool that
It's pretty cool.
that you have to get the rhythm in you before you actually get the melodies out. It's so cool.
It's pretty cool. I need to embrace. I have embraced it more than ever, that it's cool. I used to get really down on myself about it, like I can't loop properly unless I beatbox. I suck. But now I'm like, screw it, fuck it.
How has the presence and absence of your father impacted your music?
I think because of my dad, I have a lot of there's a lot of things about my dad that make me more unique than most people I meet. You don't meet many people from the Caribbean, well, of Afro Latino heritage around, especially Dominicans. You know, so far away. It's like, why would you go to Australia? You know what I mean? Yeah. His presence really brought a lot of soul, a lot of zest. I like, there's a lot of music that my dad listened to that I probably would not have had such passionate access to passively from listening to him if, you know, um, I was a different nationality other than Dominican. There's not that many Dominicans in this country, and that I'm very unique, and but then also my mother is so creative as well in her own way. She's an academic. The absence of my father has really just further ingrained in me just how unique I am and just how much I just need to be me, because my dad was always just himself. He never told me this, but I think the biggest thing I learned from him was you rather be yourself and stand out from the crowd instead of blending in and never knowing how unique you truly are. So that both, yeah. He taught me like to really value my uniqueness, because he was so unique. He was unlike anyone. Like, we went to family Christmas, and it's like my mum rocks up with like, two black boys and a black husband. Everyone's white, maybe French, or I've got a cousin's friend is Asian or something like that. But like, there's no black people, there's no Latinos, there's no like Afro Latinos for that matter. It's all, there's a lot of different shit going on in me. And it's also why I'm so fucking challenged with normal things as well. I struggle with simple things, and all my friends will tell you.
We'll testify.
But they wouldn't have me any other way, and I wouldn't have me any other way.
What is the big dream for you as a musician? Like, what is the ultimate dream where you feel like I've landed, this is exactly where I wanted to be?
Well, I think it's intertwined with my big dream in life as well, which is to just be free, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, and financially free. Yeah. And if that looks like, and what I want that to look like is for millions of people to hear my music and love my music, and for me to travel the world playing music and make a lot of money by making people happy, so I can have a family one day, so I can have a house one day, so I don't have to worry about, getting a parking ticket I can't pay for, and that's stressing me out, and that's stopping me from being able to create. But that's all part of life. So like, I'm not complaining, or like not being able to afford rent one week because there's a pandemic or some shit. Whatever. It's all the struggle, and it's made me such a great person, and it's made me such a strong artist. But the dream is to like my girlfriend gives me shit. She's like, you just want to be famous. And I'm like, look, if you put it like that, if you want to make me sound like a douchebag, then you can put it like that. But look, if being famous means that there's millions of people that know who I am, not because like I think I'm cool or I'm good looking, but for a beautiful, genuine reason that I fucking make them move and be moved, in their souls. They like my music, like, fuck yeah, I want to be famous. It's a good life. Obviously, it comes with some crazy troubles, big money, big troubles, whatever. I'm prepared to face those troubles, because I'm better at that than I am at any other thing. So I want to take that to the nth degree. You know what I mean? Never really. I worked. The only time I really properly worked was when, I worked in Big W, when I was like 16.
Retail,
and I like stole from the register because I was a little thieving little. I want to say a C word, but I'm not going to. But and the other time I got fired, and the other time I worked was like in my huge stoner days, in the Marble Mansion days, before I started teaching music. I was like, in a space of a year. This is before I moved out of home properly, because I was, scattered. In the space of a year, I worked like at 8-9 different companies doing like telesales. I was a salesman. I tried doing like door-to-door salesman, telefundraising, like all these jobs at all these companies. And I just like I worked at these places and like it got to 2 weeks and I just be like, this, fuck this, headset off. I quit. Pay me and I'm leaving. And then I started teaching music. But yeah, so and it's not even just that. Like obviously if I apply myself and if I absolutely had to, I could do it, but it's just not for me. And yeah, I'm unique. So I do something unique. The dream is to be.
It is to make it big.
To make it big, yeah. And like, look, I don't like. In the end of the day, I don't care if I'm as big as Bruno Mars, but I do want to make a decent living out of this. By a decent living, like I don't mean a living as in like what people make working a 9 to 5. I want to make a bit to a lot more than that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and that's what I want to do. That's a big dream.
So you have released music with your bands. You have done collaborative work. You've performed live more times than you can remember. And you have released a video then on New Jupiter called Whiskey Girl.
Yeah.
What's next?
Well, I want to release that track, Whiskey Girl. It only makes sense to do that, and then release either a 3-track EP after that, or just keep releasing some singles. I don't know what to do yet, but there's a lot of ways to do it, with a budget, without a budget, EP, singles. There's a lot of ways to do it, and I'm figuring it out.
Yeah, it sounds like you're on fertile ground.
Yeah, 100% I am. Definitely am. But yeah, the next thing is quite simply to release a single soon.
Dom, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you. I really, really am so thankful to be here.
That was a really cool chat. Thank you guys so much for tuning in and listening. It means the world to me that you care enough to watch and listen to these episodes. I think these people are really cool and their stories worth knowing. So I'm so glad you agree. All right, until then, I'll see you next week.